Welcome to the Bliss Code Podcast, where we unlock the secrets to your ideal lifestyle. I'm Jamie Drew, your guide on this transformative journey. Whether you're seeking balance, ambition, or pure bliss, remember, every episode brings us one step closer to cracking the code. Together, let's decode your dreams and elevate your everyday. Ready? Let's dive into the formula. Hey girl, welcome to the Bliss Code Podcast. It's your girl Jamie Drew, and today I have a special guest with me, Tayler from Liberation is Lit. Okay. You know what? That's like a play on words too, Tayler. It's like, it's lit, the slang, and lit as in literature. So I love that. And that is so special. So, okay, tell everyone what it is that you do, Tayler.
Yes. So with Liberation is Lit, I kind of do a couple of things. So our mission is to center and highlight stories written by people of color, disabled people, women of color, women writers in general, in order to spark community change. So in my bookstore, I try to prioritize selling those stories and connecting readers to those experiences, to have them think critically about their place in the world and who's missing at the table, who do they need to invite in their lives, how can they take these experiences and make deeper connections to their own experiences. And then I also do book coaching with Liberation is Lit. So I help authors and writers of color, women writers, craft their narrative and their experience and turn their passion into a story that can ignite change in their own communities.
Okay, so you said a lot, and I really want to dig into this. So first, let's talk about the bookstore. This is an online bookstore, which I love. And I feel like it allows you to be kind of a creative with this because you've curated, it's like a book collection. And so you're weaving this theme that is your passion into creating your own online bookstore. So how did this all start? I mean, how did you decide I want to have a bookstore? I see all these books behind you. Where did you get all the books? How did you get this idea? Like, tell me where this all came from.
Yes. So way back in 2019, I wanted to start a blog, but I didn't know what I wanted to blog about. So I was talking to one of my colleagues who was running a travel blog at the time, and she just gave me the advice of just what are you passionate about? Like, what can you talk endlessly about? And that's what you should do your blog about. So I had recently graduated from grad school and got back into reading because growing up, I was always that kid with a book in her hands. I remember my mom, before I could even
read. You were a bookworm. You were at those scholastic book fairs.
I was
getting those books.
I'd be like, Mom, give me some money. The book fair is here. Yes. But I remember before I could even read, my mom would give me all of these books on cassette tapes. And so if she was driving or cooking or could read to me, I had the little cassette tapes with the books and it would beep when I turned the page. So I had my little Winnie the Pooh carrying case full of my books and my cassette tapes that I would read all the time. So that's where I got my start. So I started this blog in 2019. And I called it Liberation is Lit, kind of like what you were saying, play on words, so many different levels. And the thing that I really wanted to connect books to was what was happening in the world and just my different feelings and learning about different issues, learning about different people and finding those connections through these different stories. So it was a blog for a really long time. And then June of this year, I quit my job to start a bookstore.
Team quit your job. Team quit your job. Yes, I quit my job too. So wait, when was this that you quit your job?
My last day was May 31st.
Wow. Okay. That
Mm-hmm.
was 2 months after I left my job. So we are in this together. Let's get
Yes.
your gang. Quit your job, gang.
Yes.
Doesn't it feel so good? Like, speaking of liberation is lit, you have your liberation.
Yes.
Like, you are free.
It feels so good. Like if I want to have a slow morning, like yesterday was a slow morning where I
Girl,
just like
yes.
laid in bed and then like casually went to the gym and then I got my day started and it just feels
Yes.
so good. And as an entrepreneur, as you know, like I'm working like really hard, like putting in long hours, doing a lot of
Yeah.
things, but also like having that freedom to know like when you can take a break, when your body is telling you need that rest. That is the
Yes.
difference.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, that is one of the best things I have found about being an entrepreneur because it's like, yes, I still have to quote unquote work. I still have to do the things to make this business go, but I can decide it's on my time and it's on my terms, you know? And that just feels so good for me to not have, all the angst with having to get up in the morning and be jolted awake by an alarm and all of that. And oh my goodness, I'm just so happy that you just understand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I always wanted a job where I could just read books. Not I don't read books all day, but like one that focuses on reading, but so that's the ultimate plus for me.
Yeah, so you knew that when you were a little girl that you wanted to have a job that was reading books.
Yes.
You thought you were going to be a librarian though.
I did, and I can't tell you how many times I've applied to jobs at the library and they just won't take me. Like I volunteered
Yeah.
at the library, but every time I'm just like, "Can I be a librarian?" They're like, nah. And so I was like, fine, I'll create my own library.
Oh my gosh, you are so like me because I felt like that was a sign. Before I left my job, I was so miserable there, right? And I was like, let me just apply for this, apply for that, try this, try that. And it was like nothing was working. Nobody wanted to hire me. And I know I have skills, okay, in the workplace, but then you're like, what is this telling me? And I just started to realize that that was my sign that I need to go on my own. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
okay, they won't hire me. So I'm about to hire myself and do my own thing, which is what I'm really called to do anyway. Like, being pulled toward your passion, I'm finding out like following your actual happiness, which sounds really crazy. It sounds like, well, how are you supposed to make money? How are you supposed to live life just doing what you like to do? That's how you make the most of it because you're happy to come and do it.
Yes. And like every morning I wake up and I'm like so grateful that I'm living the life that I'm living. And
Mm-hmm.
I know like the old school people in my life, like my dad and my uncle, my grandpa, they're just like, so you quit that. Well, at first, when I quit my like job at the University of South Carolina, they're like, you could quit that good government job with those good benefits to do
not
what?
that not that good government job, girl.
And I'm just like, well, and they just don't understand. Like with my sister as like a realtor, like it's concrete.
Mhm.
They're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, she's gonna be making money. But then with me, they're kind of like, oh, do people still read? Do people buy books? Like, what's your plan? Like, are you gonna have to like when are you going to get a job? Have you been applying on the side? I know you're really passionate about this, but like, and I'm just like,
Get a
no.
real
And
job.
right. And what
Quote
I
unquote
found
real
is
job.
when I stopped trying to do everything that people like gave me as advice or this is what you should do, this is what like the direction you're supposed to be going, and started living in alignment to what I was passionate about,
Girl,
like
yes.
the money comes. I have no idea how, but the money just comes and
It's
I
like you give it permission because you
right,
open yourself up to actually de-stress from it, which
right.
can hold you back from a lot of it, just over obsessing about it.
Mhm.
So tell me how you got all those books behind you. Like, how did it get started? Did you start just buying books out of the wazoo? Tell me the rest of this story.
Yes. So I amassed my huge collection. It took a while for me to build this. So at first I well, my secret to reading a bunch of books that I do is audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks constantly.
Yes.
So I would get them from the library on the Libby app and just like listen to a bunch
Okay.
of books. And then I just started doing like reviews and things. I got a job as a contributor to this blog called the Feminist Book Club. And
Mm.
that really took my like
That sounds
ability to
so
get
fun.
so yes. So they have a lot of connections to different publishers and things like that. And they just send me books for free now. Like I just will
What?
put requests in the group chat. They're like, who wants this book? And I'm like, I do. So I got a lot of books that way. But then I started making connections with publicists and PR reps for these publishing companies. And they were like, oh, we really
Nice.
liked your review. We really liked your podcast interview on the Feminist Book Club. Like, would you be interested in doing this on like your personal blog? So that's how I've been building up that. And then even a lot of independent authors and like small press authors, they've been reaching out to me and be like, hey, I'd love to send you my book for you to do a review. So that's how I get a lot of
Nice.
free.
I like that.
Also,
Okay.
another secret, NetGalley, which sometimes I'm behind on my reviews for NetGalley, but it's a platform anybody can sign up for. And as
Mm-hmm.
long as you're consistent with your reviews, they'll give you more and more books to review. So
So what do they just send you a book and then you read it and review it?
yes, you have to work your way up to get the physical copy, but there's a lot of
Okay.
books and audiobooks that you can get started with.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So, okay, I'm assuming that you've read a lot of books. And I know, like, before we were recording and everything, we were talking about books and just talking about how you're a book coach and how you have a bunch of books and just how you put these collections together. So, you've heard a lot of stories, is
Yes.
basically what I'm getting at. And, a lot of what I talk about is people and the narratives that they have for their lives and how you create this story of your life full of things that you don't want. And the way to shift into a brand new reality is start to call in those things that you do want. And really, sometimes actually like writing it out or envisioning yourself this way, like writing it down, who you want to be, what you want to be, looking the part, and then, living in that state of how you would be if you were this character. So, what are some things like that you have seen in these characters in these books that we can like take away from, recreating our own life stories?
Right. So I feel like while you focus a lot on the future with like the women that you work with, I focus a lot
Mhm.
on the past and
Mhm.
like who you have always been to get you to who you are now. And I like to kind of in a lot of my posts I talk a lot about representation and how seeing people in different kinds of stories matter, because when we see people in different kinds of stories, that allows us to realize what the possibilities are for ourselves. So
I love
um
that.
yes, I go on a lot of rants about books about messy black women because
Mhm.
I feel like they get such a bad rap. Um like books like Queenie by Candace Carty Williams and Luster, like those are a couple like the big ones where it's
Mhm.
about black women in particular who are trying to figure out things. They're making mistakes, they're getting things wrong, and people are like, well, this book was bad because I can't relate to this character, or I don't like the way this character is representing black women. But in the
Mhm.
end, they're not focusing on how that character pulls through and takes all of the lessons that they've learned from all of the mistakes to become a better person and get closer to the person that they want to be. They're always just focusing on like the negatives of, oh, well, like this person was messing around with this guy who obviously would never love her back, or why was this person like so involved in this married couple, and like the
so you're rooting for the messy story. You like the messy, but okay, I see
because
what you're
it gives
saying
people
now.
hope to be able to pull through in the end,
whole entire story.
Yes, like you have to, like, because we all make mistakes, and there's some things that in our lives that we're not proud of, but if we dwell on those things, like we're always going to be stuck in that identity. And it's the same for how people judge these characters in the book. They're always dwelling on the negative and being stuck in that one identity, when this character is, but you forget this character is like a boss when it comes to like her work life, or this character is like always putting her kids first and is a great mom. Like you're just focusing on these one little negative things that you can't focus on the holistic aspect of the person and how they're developing through.
You're using words that I love. Holistic. Yes. I love that, like seeing the person for the totality of who they are and not just zeroing in on the negative parts of the story that you saw.
Right, because we shouldn't do that in our own stories. We shouldn't limit ourselves to the worst things we ever done, or we keep making mistakes. Like, let's do like these characters and extract the lessons about how we can become better parents, how we can become better spouses, how we can become better business women, how we can just become better people in general by all of these things that we see as faults in our lives.
I love that. That reminds me of like a couple things, but just right off the bat, I was thinking about wabi sabi. So I talk about this Japanese concept a lot, where it's focused on imperfection and impermanence. And I just love that. And I think about that in my art a lot. When you're painting all these different layers, it might look ugly at first, but then it comes out looking great. So that's like reminding me of what you're saying. It's like your life is a whole robust story. Don't zero in on this negative thing. How does that work when you're talking to like the authors and everything that you're working with? How do you get them? Because I'm sure they're dealing with things like that we all deal with: lack of confidence, imposter syndrome. How do you get them to see, I am an author, I do know what I'm doing, and I do have myself a robust story? Because I know you and I were discussing like how you tell your clients that their story matters within the story of their writing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I'll talk about one of my, I hate to have like a favorite client, but like my very first book coaching client, she has to be my favorite. She's like this Black woman in her 70s, and she's just like, I'm not a writer, I'm not an author, like I don't know like how to even write this book. And I'm like, don't worry, I can help you. So she really wanted to write a book about how Black nursing students can succeed in like the nursing field. And I'm just like, honestly, you start with everything that you felt like you needed in your journey as a Black nursing student and what you want to share. And then you take aspects from your own nursing journey and share what worked for you, what you wish you had, things like that. And she was like, when I started thinking like that and talking to the students as if I was talking to my younger nursing self, that changed the game. And so like she's built her confidence as like feeling like she has something to say, that her story is important, and that what she has to share with Black nursing students is going to help them on their journey. Because one of the reasons why she wanted to write this book is because there are no books out there about that specifically nursing students. And so many young Black women especially go into the nursing field and they're just trying to navigate this on their own. They're also trying to navigate like, okay, I have kids to take care of. I have to worry about transportation. I have to help my family provide for the household. So she wanted to take all of those aspects and include them into the book so she could have like this holistic view of what it really takes to become a Black nurse when you're juggling all of these things, even from like discrimination in the nursing field, but also like how you can be a beacon of light for Black patients because
Yeah.
you understand their experience. So having, at first she just wanted to write like a how-to guide, like how to do scholarships and how to do this. I was like, no, like to make this book successful, you need to put yourself in your
Yourself in
story.
it.
Mhm.
Yes. I love that. And I love how you showed her that, because, a lot of times, like when we're having imposter syndrome and we don't feel like we can be it right now, like you were saying, like looking towards our future. But no, it's like, what do you have right now? And how can you help people that don't already have that? That really
Mhm.
makes you look at yourself in a different way because you're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like, oh, I'm not a 10, so I can't tell my story, or I can't teach, or what I have to say is not valuable. But even if you have a 5 level, what about 4, 3, 2, and 1? And what can you give to those people on those levels, from your
Mhm.
experience? So I love that. I know I had you like I was going back and forth about what kind of books that I wanted to see from you. Let me see some books because I get so excited when you post stuff online. I want to talk about some of the books that you felt like were important to bring to life today.
Yes, I know one that you brought up was the Black Girls Must Die Exhausted book.
Yes.
Okay, so that was actually a series of books that the author wrote to, and her main goal was like there's a whole like author's note in the beginning that talks about like how there's not a lot of representation of like how much Black women give of themselves and how they deserve rest and to be taken care of, because in a lot of the stories she was reading, it's about Black women taking care of all these other people and they don't have enough room to really take care of themselves. So the story talks about like how all of that like stress and stuff affected her physically,
Mhm.
and like also like the relationship she was having or the relationship she wanted to have, and how she didn't have time to focus on any of that because she was too busy spreading herself so thin between her family and her career and all of these people who were demanding things of her, and how there's just this expectation in society that Black women especially just do, but women in general
Mm.
just give themselves, especially mothers, how they have to
Yes.
do all of themselves, and it's seen as selfish if you're trying to take care of yourself and what you need to replenish all of that you're giving away to other people. So
How did she
that
pull herself out of that? Like how
well,
did she get to the other side?
unfortunately, something drastic had to happen to her physically for her to really take a
As
look
usual.
and see like what's happening. But that's where books are so important, and that's why I'm such an advocate for books, especially for young people, because books are a safe place for people to explore like what could happen. And that's why I also love memoirs, because like
Oh,
you
yes.
see like people at their lowest of lows and how they pulled themselves out and what worked for them and what you can take for your own life without you personally experiencing that
Having to
low
go through
or
it. Yeah. Like you get to
exactly.
live through their experience.
Right.
Yes.
So that's why I think like reading can be so fundamental, like just about everything. Just you can explore who you've been, who you are, and who you want to be, all in like a safe space, and kind of take bits and pieces from different people's experiences, whether that's fictional or non-fictional, and see what lessons you want to extract to apply to your own life.
I love that. Have you seen that movie? Oh my gosh. Now I'm blanking on what the movie is, but you were reminding me of it earlier. And it's where a girl was working. And oh, it's called The Other Black Girl.
Oh, the movie? Yes. It's
Yes.
actually a book.
It's a book too?
Yes.
Did I know that already? I don't know. But yeah, it's just I was thinking of that, story and how that narrative played out, and like what do you think of some of those themes that they had in there?
The Other Black Girl was another one of those books where people had mixed reviews about. They were like, "Oh, it's really
Yeah.
good," or "Why are we talking about this?" Like not Nella. What is the other girl's name?
Don't
Um,
ask me.
I forgot her name, but oh, she's a sellout, and like,
Yeah.
but it comes up with a really interesting concept of like, if Black women want to keep overachieving, like how can we take care of ourselves in the meantime, or is it just, do we have to like question the narrative of Black women having to keep overachieving?
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed that book, and that book especially had me thinking about I was having a conversation with my previous coworker at the time, and we're kind of very different. We're both Black women, but so like I have been around white people all my life, and
Mm.
I just naturally have this like bubbly and upbeat personality, and I try to connect with different people. And she is darker skinned, she's bigger than I am, and her voice is deeper, and that automatically gets coded as she's more aggressive and things like that. So when
Mm.
I read that book, I was like, oh crap, am I the other Black girl? Like
You might be the other Black girl.
yes. So like one of the like tangible books that I read that made me question, like, okay, like yes, Black women face all this discrimination and all these barriers and things like that, but there's also privilege among us too, and like
Yeah.
am I using my privilege for good or for bad? So like it had me thinking about like my place in that story and how
Mhm.
that story like applies to my real life. So that was definitely a perfect example of kind of like a book being eye-opening for me.
Yeah. I don't know if you if you watched the movie also, but one of the points that I was noticing in the movie, it was kind of interesting how they were twisting your mind and making you think about certain things. Because one of the things that I noticed is how all the people who had kind of been warped, right, by this magical hair grease that turned them, basically docile, right?
Mhm.
But um there was like a little nod in there towards being happier in life by not hyper focusing on negative things.
Mhm.
Did you pull that out of there? Like a little hint of that, where it's like, that's an interesting perspective
Yes.
underlining this narrative.
Yes, I did. And that's kind of where the debates were happening. It was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, do you just want to like close your eyes to like everything that's happening and like just not worrying about making things better? But at the same time, it is an interesting point that the book and the show bring up about like, well, why does Black women taking care of themselves by any means necessary in order to keep doing what they do and keep being excellent, like why is that such a bad thing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's again where I feel like when women and women of color especially, they start to do what they are to take care do what they do to take care of themselves, it's seen as selfish, or you're not
Mm-hmm.
caring about like your family, you're not caring about other people, you're not caring about your job. And it's like, well, how can we have this space to care about ourselves?
Yeah. A lot of women struggle with that. Like so many women that I've spoken to, feel guilty for giving too much to themselves or following what makes them happy. It's seen as irresponsible, or you're not a good mom, or you could be doing this instead, or you're lollygagging around. You know, it's just kind of seen as a negative thing. Even to the point, I mean, I could point out so many like terms and narratives that we have on us for taking care of ourselves. Selfish, high maintenance, bougie, uppity. I mean, I could just go on and on and on with when is it okay to be able to take care of yourself and kind of put yourself first. Not even kind of put yourself first, really put yourself first, because I just believe that women belong on a pedestal. And for all the things that we do, that we know how to do, that we do in this world, it's like we are magic.
Right.
And it's like the people who have the most, you know, to give and that change the world and other people's lives so much, we deserve to be revered.
Right.
So that's instead really how
expectation that, oh, that's just the standard where you're supposed to do, like going up is no such thing as going above and beyond, because that's the standard.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, you just remind me, that word is like a trigger word for me, standard, because I am in love with Gordon Ramsay. Okay. And girl, when he goes in those restaurants to tell those people, like, this is why your restaurant is failing, it's because they don't have a standard. He's always like, standards, you must have standards. So I just love that, because that's what I feel like really will help people to create this new narrative for their life, and to, you know, have this story that they actually want to be living, like come out on the other side, is by flipping the script and saying, no, I'm on this pedestal. No, I deserve all of this. You know, this is where I'm supposed to be, and setting a standard of what you won't go below.
Right.
Like, that's really how you get to the other side, is by deciding like what you will and won't do and what type of person you're going to be.
Right. And that reminds me of the book I recommend to like all Black women is, but all women in general, a Renaissance of Our Own, a memoir manifesto by Rachel E. Cargill. Because
okay, girl, you're gonna have to text me that.
Yes, it's like one of the most life-changing books I've ever read, because like she starts out with her own personal manifesto, and then she goes through like obviously her life, and like her life growing up, and how she like went to build the business empire that's based on centering the mental health of Black women. But you also get to see how she started identifying her values and living her life by the values she set from her personal manifesto. And it also gives you little prompts and work reflection questions to write your own manifesto. So
I love that.
After I read that book, I was just like, okay, these are my 3 biggest values that are important to me: community, ease, and wanting to make a difference in the world. And every decision moving forward in my life, if they don't align with what my values are, it's an easy no.
Yes,
and that way I started living the life I wanted to live.
Whoo, girl. Oh my gosh. Okay, you have to text me, email me, whatever, that book, because I need to read that. First of all, I love a good workbook inside of a book. But also, I was just talking about this, like, come from the mind space of that person that you're like, I have decided that this is it, and anything outside of that is a no for me. You know, like, remember how people used to have that "what would Jesus do" bracelet? You know, it's like, what would this version of me do? Period. And that's how I'm living, nothing else outside of it.
Right.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So we are running out of time, and I'm having so much fun, but let me see. Let me make sure there's no other questions that I missed talking to you about. I guess like from being a bookstore owner, being an advocate for women's stories or marginalized people's stories, everything that you do with all of your coaching and everything pretty much combined, these stories, like what is the biggest takeaway that you can tell people from that they can learn from all of your experience, all of the books you've read, all of the coaching you've done? What is something that they can, or a couple of things that you want them to take away?
Well, the biggest thing is your voice and your story matters, and you can use it to shape the world into a better place. That's definitely like the root and the heart of all of the work I do. Because for so long, like, I didn't think my voice mattered. I didn't think my story mattered. And I forgot to put this part of my introduction. I'm also an author. So I just recently published my first poetry collection called
Congratulations.
You're Not Supposed to called Phases, and it's all about everything I talked about today, just feeling like I was too much, I was feeling too much, I was too sensitive, and that's a burden to everybody around me, to
Yeah.
having this mask of perfection that I project to other people so they don't see like the messy parts of me, and then
Yeah.
unlearning all of that to live truly in alignment. So that writing those poems and even publishing it for the world to read, I learned a lesson of radical vulnerability
Oh.
and not being afraid to hide all of these secret parts of myself, and just because at the end of the day I was like, I didn't know who I was. I was just a mixture of what I thought other people wanted me to be.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes, through this radical vulnerability process, I realized that like I love who I am, whether that's the awesome parts that people think are so cool, and also like the messy parts that I'm a crier, I'm a crybaby, I'm
Yeah.
sensitive, I have a lot of emotions, like even loving those parts of myself and sharing those parts with the world, um, to show the world me and not just who I want them to see.
Yeah. Huh, I love that. And you know what? If so many more people would do that, just be authentic, just be who they are, mm, it would be lit.
Mhm. Yes, yes.
Yes, because it's just coming right back around to where we started. Liberation is lit. The freedom of it
Mhm.
all, the freedom that comes with authenticity, that comes with being your true self. So you start off with this fictional tale, just like the lady that you were talking about with the manifesto. She starts off writing what she wants and then decided to jump in her story.
Mhm.
And by being yourself, which is probably a different person from a lot of people who they are now,
Right.
projecting like a collection of other people's stories, who other people want them to be, but
Mhm.
then finally having the freedom to step into a new character, which is
Mhm.
your actual self.
Right.
You've been acting this whole time. Surprise.
Mhm.
You were a character this whole time. And
Mhm.
now being yourself and the freedom of that, the liberation is so lit.
Yes.
I like that. Okay. Well, this has been awesome. And I feel like we got to do it again, podcast or not. We need to
Right.
have like a book night, Huga books,
Yes.
like
I'll throw some bell hooks
soft
in there.
lighting. You said throw some bell hooks in there?
Yeah, because All About Love is also another like transformational book I read, just to change my idea about like community love, romantic love, and self love. All of it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. You know what I
Mhm.
want to do? Like put a little section on my socials and everything of books that you have curated that have to do with the stuff that we talked about today.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. It's a little mini collab where we will encourage people to read those books and see how it can transform all of our lives together. Yes. And they can buy the ones you have from your stock. They can buy them from you, and we will all get liberated together.
Yes. That's the goal.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you? Your bookstore? Where can they find you on social media? Give me all the juice.
Yes, so you can find my bookstore and all of everything around that, my book coaching and stuff, on liberationislit.com. On social, I'm on all the socials except X. I'm not as Twitter savvy, but I'm on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook under @liberationislit.
Okay, everybody go follow your girl Tayler @liberationislit and look forward to our mini collab book collection together. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you, Tayler, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching us or listening, if you're listening to your favorite podcast, the Bliss Code Podcast. Don't go anywhere, girl. You know I have some announcements for you. So don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you are aware of every single episode that we upload. Next week, we're going to be talking about the best of the bums. I know you all have heard me mention this before, but some of you want me to really break it down. And once you find out what this is, you are going to start, your eyes are going to be open to a lot more things in your life, because either you know some people who are the best of the bums, or guess what? You're the best of the bums yourself. So tune in every single Friday for a brand new episode of the Bliss Code Podcast. And don't forget to mark your calendars for December 1st for the epic Bliss Code Academy launch that I know you all have been waiting for. The evergreen course, the community, the digital Rolodex, all of the workshops, all of the methodologies that have transformed my life and so many other women's lives. You are going to want to be a part of this crew. So mark your calendar for December 1st. Head on over to theblisscode.net and be sure that your email is there as one of our subscribers and tech subscribers, because you do not want to miss out on being a founding member.